Hello and welcome to the Coachlogik Podcast. I'm Joshua Gibson. I'm joined by Max Aita, who looked like a deer in the headlights as the numbers rang down to zero and the
You're
show
cutting
started.
out a little
Max, how you
bit
doing?
here. Doing okay. We're just cruising through stuff and trying to make things work, and yeah, getting to the ready to launch the beta here this week and get people on board with the app. Just doing stuff one day at a time, one step at a time, one little hurdle to cross each day. So outside of that, pretty well.
Yeah, and we did a podcast, and it's on the Philosophical Weightlifting podcast, which is what is Coachlogik? And I think I was hit with this question from a few people of what exactly are you guys talking about when you talk about Coachlogik? What is it? What's all the information and hype about? What's it centered around? And I thought this would be a great way to talk about, one, the current stage that it's at with getting beta testers on or people to test the product at its current stage. And then, what it's been like kind of as it was dropped, at least for myself, to kind of get on and start using it up until the Olympics where, it's going to be released kind of for anyone and everyone. So maybe you can talk about kind of like the beta stage of the product, what that's going to look like and what kind of people you're trying to get on to use it.
I mean, like any beta software, we're releasing something that's, it's not entirely feature complete. So there's a lot of stuff that, won't end up in the beta initially as far as like AI, features mostly. So like computer vision and program generator, all these things won't necessarily be in there. And, a big part for us, the beta is about, launching something that is going to be bug free and works well right out of the bat. Like, so people can just start putting people on once we launch. So right now it's our tentative idea is to launch in August. The beta program will run until we're ready to launch. So if there's still a ton of bugs or we're, cleaning stuff up, that might be extended by a little bit. If things go way faster and way better, it might be shortened. So, the goal here is to basically get the software to a point where it's super usable, it's cleaned up. There's a lot of stuff that, does exactly what it's supposed to do. We don't have to deal with like these little tiny things that are, kind of always there, kind of present whenever you build something. And something like this that's like very intricate and complex. There's a lot going on. There's many little areas where you get like a tiny little thing that, hey, this doesn't work or that doesn't work. And so we just have to kind of, address every one of these things individually. But yeah, outside of that, like that's where we're at. We're just ready to, do more stuff this weekend, kind of wrapping up some final pieces to get put in, and then we'll start inviting people on. Obviously there's been people using it, so it's not like we're in this total, like, like eyes closed kind of thing. You've been using it. And we're just, getting ready for that. So.
Yeah. Could you explain for people who still aren't familiar, assuming we reach a different audience or people want kind of like an update as to what the product is currently and then what it intends to be? So maybe you can talk about like current stage of development and then what in the future people can expect, given that it's something that's going to revolutionize coaching.
Yeah, I mean, so you gotta give like an outline of what the product is. I think makes it a little easier to understand. A lot of people, coach through various pieces of software. They use something like Google Sheets or, you know, like uh, like a platform like True Coach or a um, uh, maybe a combination of 4 or 5 different apps to kind of get the job done. And when you think about it, um, you know, the job is a lot of things. It's writing a training program, collecting data on your athletes, performing the training program, collecting video information, collecting feedback from the athletes, and then recording all this. Just the base level of a coaching platform or doing coaching is about collecting that data, taking all that in, and then, using that to inform the next week's programming or the next month's programming, using that to give video feedback or, corrective exercises or coaching cues or feedback to your athletes. And then, finally storing all that stuff so you can draw on the data to make informed decisions later on, whether it's next week or next month or next year or whatever it is. So, it's like it's a very broad sort of piece of software that does a lot of things. But the big thing is that, you know, anyone coaching needs to be doing all these things to do a great job, right? You can do some of them, you can do, one or two and do okay, but if you don't have some way of doing all this together, you're going to be in a place where, you're limited by the amount of knowledge you have. If you never saw your athletes, they never gave you any feedback about the program, you maybe not have any idea if they're getting better or not. You might not know that, like, hey, they have to skip 2 or 3 sets of squats every week or every session, or they miss half their snatches or whatever. So, you want to be able to collect this data and do something with it. And that's what these coaching platforms are. Ours is a little bit different because what we're doing is dialing it in, very, very accurately and very, very kind of through the process of refinement that I've had in my coaching career. We've dialed in the process and the workflow and all these things so the software functions really, really well for people who coach barbell sports. So powerlifting and weightlifting. And there's a lot of tiny things, small things you wouldn't notice, on other platforms that just lacking, that we've done a good job of sort of finding better solutions to. And then on top of all this, our long-term goal is we're integrating a lot of AI tools into the software so that it beefs up your ability to do coaching, but also kind of moves us into a new realm of, like, I guess, like a new paradigm for coaching where you can get a ton of information, you can digest the information, have it spit out, data and knowledge to you that's useful regardless of your level of skill as a coach. So you don't need to be super knowledgeable. You'll be able to get a lot of that out of your system because we have these AI tools integrated. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the sort of the rundown of what we're trying to do. You've used it though too. So you've used like a very alpha build of it where it's, very buggy, but something's not there, but you've had some experience, so I'd love to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah, and I think I'd love to get into that. And a good way to do that and kind of transition is when you worked on the weightlifting AI. I remember you were out in Columbus and we went to a restaurant. It was called Bakersfield, and they had fish tacos. So we went, sat down, ordered, had tacos, drinks, and we went outside and we were out in the little patio area. And you're like, hey, let me show you something. And you're like, pull up your phone, you pull up the weightlifting AI. I think this might have been like around the time it was being released or right before. It was in March. I think it released in April or sometime around there. And you're kind of showing it to me. And I was thinking back on that and thinking now, having used the product kind of at its, it's when it was revealed, it's like, okay, here's the thing. You can start working on it and using it and trying to figure out the flow and what makes sense and what doesn't. What was it like when you had that experience with the Coachlogik platform, like to where you actually had something tangible in your hands to use, and all of the work prior was kind of put into action, so to speak, and realized in like a tangible piece of software?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer because, like, I always see it as like this incomplete thing that we're trying to continue moving forward. So whenever I touch it, I'm always like aware of the things that we need to do, and so I don't have that same perspective. But just a lot of the stuff we did, like the consolidation of things, and really, I feel like the platform is very streamlined. It's designed around the workflow of a coach, like the actual workflow. And so, uh, you know, like, that's going to be one of those things where just my experience touching it and using it in that way makes me very excited because I feel like, oh, this would really not just speed up and make me more efficient, but like it makes you excited about like, oh, I can do a better job because it's so much easier to deliver quality feedback, or it's going to be so much easier to do um like like eh, I'm trying to think of all these little things. Like there's so many little things, like it's just a cool platform because it does a lot of the stuff you want it to do. And that to me is the thing that makes the coaching side of it more exciting. Like building a program in it, assigning stuff, looking at the data, looking at things, makes it feel like you're actually engaged in the process of coaching on all levels, not just like a spreadsheet with like a bunch of numbers and then you open up some other app and do a video review, or some messaging app that is great for sending out a bunch of programming, but you get no data and no real good, video feedback. So to me, when I use it, it's exciting because we've optimized so many things and really trimmed it down to be a very streamlined software that gives you exactly what you want where you want it. And I like that because it makes me feel like I'm going to enjoy that tedious side of coaching a lot more.
Yeah, well, I'd say, you were picking out details here and there and saying like, well, this is something we really like and are glad we were able to do that coaches can appreciate. And one thing I like is almost like, I don't know if you want to call it the complex builder, but you like add an exercise, add a second exercise, you can create a complex, and then you can select the number of reps for each item. And it's like, people who program and coach have their own platforms they use. So I use Sheets, and other people might use True Coach, but they all have their kind of concessions that you have to make, and you shortcut or kind of cheat your coaching and programming a little bit because of the concessions, right? So when I have like a complex builder and I can do 3 cleans and a jerk, sometimes I would avoid that just because on a spreadsheet it's a pain. It's like a pain to differentiate cleans and jerks, to go in and manually change everything. So sometimes I just, hey, you're going to do doubles and triples and it's going to suck. Not necessarily what we wanted, but it's kind of like for sake of efficiency, that's what we're left with. So I think it's those details that really fortify the coaching process and allow you to do a better job and get the exact prescription on paper rather than some approximation based on convenience.
Yeah. I think what you said there is a point that's hard to get across people until they've done it, but anything you do that's like related to this kind of stuff, right? Coaching or really any job, it's like you're going to rise to the your abilities will be capped at the tools you have at hand. If you think of a very simple analogy of like a mechanic, if you had a mechanic you know, who worked on Lamborghinis or something, or Ferrari, some really high end, crazy engineered car, and you gave them a set of tools that was like, there's no computer stuff, the like no computer, no like high end tools, like it's just a hammer and there's some wrenches. They just can't. They No matter how skilled they are, they can't do the things they need, right? So the tool will always limit your ability to do that stuff to a degree. Obviously you could do a one-off thing, right? um like the platform that doesn't allow you to track metrics or data in an easy way, that's going to stop you from doing more with data. The platform that makes it hard to identify videos, or like maybe you can only do a review of a single video at a time and it's like a 5-minute process, that makes it harder to give more feedback. So like all these little things, right? Not being able to build a complex and track data that way, or not being able to you know construct training programs in an easy way, or have a calendar, any of these things, they just limit what you do. And so I think a lot of people, a lot of coaches, um you know deviate to the lowest common denominator, whatever the tool allows them to do. Um, you know, um, uh, so it's like you just stop at that point. And what we want to do is try to open that up so that there is no longer a cap you know, on your abilities, right? Your abilities will get, you know, basically maximized because the platform and the tool itself will exceed what you could do with it, if that makes sense, right? So that's kind of our North Star, is like we want to open the ceiling up so that you can do any kind of coaching and do great coaching with it, and do all that stuff without being in a spot where you're like feeling like, well, I don't do a lot of video feedback because it's like it's cumbersome, or I don't do a lot of, data analysis because it's like too hard. So instead, I just sort of make up excuses for myself, like, oh, you just got to go heavier, or you just got to toughen up, or blah, 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 right? And then all that shit just becomes like, whatever, just bullshit that you're not, you're not giving your clients, your athletes the best you could, if that makes sense.
No, totally. And I
don't know
think part of that too is you provide information or tools that people don't understand or can't integrate into practice because they don't have the skills, and then they have to elevate their own coaching. So it's like, with the ability to see how your reps are distributed by exercise, you can start to say, this must be valuable in some capacity. They wouldn't include it if it were just like a throwaway. It's like a cosmetic feature. So it's like, oh, well, how can I better use, the data analytics? And a good point, honestly, is I had a conversation with Sergey Putsov, and he mentioned tracking like reps in the 60 to 70% range, and 70 to 80, and 80 to 90, and 90 plus. And I tried to build that into my spreadsheet, but I just like never had the bandwidth or the interest or the expertise to do it. And it's like, if someone were to give me a spreadsheet with that built in, it's like, oh, I need to figure out how this actually can be implemented or integrated into practice so I can coach better and program better. So I think part of it is like, you have a skill set you bring to the platform, you can express through the use of the tools. And then you have the platform itself with the tools to be used. And it's like, oh, well, how can I effectively use the tools? How can I use the data analytics, all the video analysis stuff, not just to like better execute my own coaching practice, but to improve my coaching practice. So I see it as like this really kind of like symbiotic process by which the coaching platforms makes you better, and then you make it better by giving feedback and being able to use it effectively.
Yeah, and the other thing is like a lot of what makes this interesting to me on the long-term scale is that software can be iterated on very quickly and essentially for a very long time. So we're not in this place of like, oh, we did it and that's it, and we moved on. It's like, right now, whatever is in the analytics as far as data collection and data use is like, maybe in 6 months that is laughable, right? Compared to what we have, right? So there's always this ability for us to continue to iterate, which means that the product, the actual platform itself, will become something that fits coaches' needs better and better and better as we go. So we're not in this place of like, oh, that's it, we did it and it's over. I mean, like that was like one of my huge frustrations. A lot of people's frustrations with some of these software solutions out there are they just don't iterate. And they don't iterate in a meaningful way. They might add stuff onto the product that looks cool at first, but then you realize it's kind of missing the element of like really delivering a great tool for coaching. And it's not iterating. They don't iterate in the sense that they deliver better tools or better experiences, better workflows, better things for coaches. They just kind of tack on another subscription integration. Like, hey, we've got Loom integrated now, or you can, use your whatever, name any one, subscription software that you can like tack on to something. But fundamentally at the core, these softwares I feel like are just not hitting the thing that a coach needs, which in my opinion is like, data collection, ease of use and understanding how to use the data, taking the data and doing something with it, and then delivering a fantastic experience to send programming and feedback to your athletes. If you're not doing those things exceptionally well, then the coaching platform just, in my opinion, is kind of like, it just doesn't, it's almost like why even use it, right? It's glorified messaging at that point. And then like we talked about earlier, it's like you just limit your coaching to that. Well, I just kind of look at what they did last week and copy and paste it and then maybe make some adjustments. And a lot of coaches do stuff where they do little workarounds, right? Where it's like, they have a Google sheet or something. They just copy the week 2 times in a row, 2 weeks back to back, the same. And yeah, in some cases that's the right answer. Maybe someone didn't make that much progress. Their strength levels haven't risen that much in a week. But like in a lot of ways, it's like, there's people make a lot of shortcuts, templates, and copy and pasting other programs. And so yeah, I just feel like there has to be for this to work well, for this to be something that is truly a product that people love, it has to iterate and adapt itself to what people need. And we're super committed to that process. We understand that really well here because we're one, I'm a coach obviously, but like the team we have is very much like grasps that concept. It's not a like quick money grab. So yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, not to call any different company out, but the one thing that irks me about training heroic is you'd finish a workout and then tonnage would pop up, and I'm like, there's zero utility in that. Like,
To me,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just like, to me, when you see an app show you tonnage, it's like it's the red flag. It's like I want to make an ad that's like, how to, whatever, coaching platform red flags. Tonnage is the first one, because what it means is they don't fucking know what to give you. And so they give you the most meaningless metric. I don't know a single person that uses tonnage, like total tonnage, as a metric, to train and build programming and all that. So yeah, it's like, I totally agree. Yeah, tonnage. It's like, you're like, why? What am I doing with this?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is like, it's the biggest. It pops out so strongly because like you did 20,000 kilos of work, and it's like that's a meaningless data point. I mean, it's beyond useless. But I guess it's eye grabbing. And so kind of to that point, you mentioned the software can almost be built indefinitely. And my experience with it was kind of funny because you're like, hey, go into this link, input your info, and sign up. And I got on it, and I was like, it's kind of confused. Like, I don't know what this is. And it was so bare bones, and to see how much it's developed already, and the leaps and bounds and the improvements, and kind of like from A to Z without even needing prompting. It's like, oh, this is going to be this is going to be a great product. And a lot of it's like getting the skeleton built to then kind of tack on and refine. But it's been fun to use. It's been really fun. I got, pretty much most of the people I coach, except for like one or two on the platform. And
you put a lot of people on. When I was like, try out one or two and like help us sort out some of these pre-beta bugs.
Yeah.
If you put all these people on, I have some bad news. Hold on, I have some bad news for you.
Yeah.
Because we're on the dev platform right now, we're going to lose all the data when we switch to the production. It's, it'll be like a month or so it's probably not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I appreciate, I love the vote of confidence that you just were like, went all in.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was so sick of spreadsheets. It was like literally the thought of having to like copy a tab over and format it just made my stomach churn. And a lot of that too, the utility in that is that I just looked at the prior block of training the data, and then I use that to inform this block. Most people are doing the state meet, Ohio State meet, or AO2, and that's all end of August. So it's like 8 weeks. So I think it's a good opportunity, but I think a lot of good feedback so far. I think people really like it. I think it's what people want, but they don't know that they want it. They're like, wow, I didn't realize it could have this functionality. And I think that's kind of the point, right? It's like, you're not delivering something that people would expect. You're trying to deliver something people wouldn't expect. Because if they would expect it, it's like, you can just get it from any other company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. And like, it's like, it's funny because it is like a business to business product. It goes from us to coaches who are selling the product to someone else. But there's a second side of this, which is like the athlete side of the software. They have to interact with it with their coaches. And we want to try to deliver a great experience for them. And you and I were just having a conversation earlier, but this is something we think about a lot, is how do we encourage the kind of behavior we want so the platform is useful to a coach. Because none of this works if an athlete doesn't enter their data in or record stuff. But no software does, right? Google Sheets, TrueCoach, none of these things will work if an athlete isn't participating with the actual product. So we have to try to find a way to help coaches by delivering features and user interfaces and things like that, gamifying it so that an athlete is encouraged to put videos in and rate their sets and leave feedback. And that's a long-term UX kind of game we play, but it's something for us to think about a lot too, because we've had a lot of experience with the Weightlifting AI product where we design things initially, then we rush them, then we push them out. People use them. They're like, oh, you know what? We should do it this way or that way to get the adherence to the process that we wanted. And so we have to think about that stuff now, which is like, how do we kind of dial this in so the athlete experience is seamless? They don't notice or think of the the software as like getting in their way. They feel like, oh, I love when I do XYZ because it gives me back this info or rewards me with whatever. And they're encouraged to do that because then it makes the coach's job even easier. So unlike something like a spreadsheet or TrueCoach or, Coach Now or any of these things, we're going to try to do what we can to deliver an experience for the athlete that makes them, encouraged to participate in the software and the process.
Yeah, I love it. So if people want to sign up for the beta version, can they still do that? Or are you still accepting people on and test the product?
We're still accepting people on. We're gonna we've got people using it in the current state, obviously, and we're just gonna start slowly bringing in more people. What we don't want to do is just have a bunch of people come in and throw a bunch of people on there, and then we're hearing the same thing 100 times, and there's we're just frustrated, and or whatever, or it overwhelms us. We miss something, and then they have a negative experience. So we want to go slow and make sure it works, to the standard we have, and then go from there.
Yeah. Where can they do that if they do want to get on the list?
You should be able to just go to coachlogik.com and go to the link. That should be in there. The Typeform link to the beta program is in there. And if not, it's in my bio and my Instagram.
Awesome. And then, if people want to stay up to date, obviously post stuff on your Instagram account, and there's going to be emails, there's going to be tons of information coming out, especially as the product becomes closer and closer to the release around the Olympics. Yeah. Where could people go to find all that stuff out?
Check on my Instagram, we'll start putting stuff on Coachlogik's Instagram. A lot of this has been kind of soft, we haven't done a lot of real aggressive promotion or marketing just because, getting more interest and excitement about it isn't, until we can sell it to people or get it, kind of in production state. I don't want to spend a bunch of time trying to overhype it and then push it out. And, I want to grow it naturally. I want to get people in. I'm going to do a lot more hands-on communication with people like we did at nationals, and, get people excited and get people into it,
Yeah, that sounds awesome. All the links that are relevant will be down in the description if people are interested. Max, any last words before we wrap up?
No, I'm just excited. We got a ton of cool stuff. I feel like this is the first time for coaches, especially weightlifting coaches, that there's been a product, been a software that's really designed for the way they do business and the way they do their job. And I think that everyone's going to find something in this product that is very useful to them. So yeah, I think that if you're interested at all, or you're hearing this, you should definitely try it, check it out, stay up to date, and yeah, excited.
Yeah, I agree. Looking forward to helping spread the good word of Coachlogik. I would highly recommend everyone check the links down below, get on the list. Maybe you can try out the platform and provide some valuable feedback to help improve it. This was a much long-awaited episode of the Coachlogik Podcast. We'll catch you all next time.